Upwards to 7.2% from an earlier estimate of 7%. While economists point to the drivers being manufacturing and the service sector, as well as a boost in domestic demand. Well, let's speak now once again to Professor Partha Chatterjee, who is a economist and emerging market specialist at the Shiv Nada University in Uttar Pradesh. It's good to see you again. We spoke a little earlier before these numbers were published. We have confirmation. What do you make of this number? What does it tell us about that rebound in the economy?
Well, I think it took all of us by surprise. The fact that the quarterly growth rate has been 6.1% is above all estimates. So it's a pleasant surprise for sure, right? So in terms of where it's coming from, again, I think there's a lot of good news in that. So there's a little bit of, if you look at the annual data versus the quarterly data, there's a little bit of divergence, and in a good sense, because if you look at the annual growth rate and you see the manufacturing growing by just 1.3%, but the matter of fact is that manufacturing had contracted over the last 2 quarters, and this quarter, in fact, it has rebounded and grown over by 4%. So that is really something that is good for the Indian economy and shows that in the next financial year, it's probably going to take off even more, because also what's happened is the investment has grown by about 8.9%, which is more than I would have expected. So I think overall, I think it's been very good news in terms of what we see in the quarterly data.
Yes, and the challenge, of course, will be maintaining that sort of growth rate, given the headwinds that are around the world right now. We know many economies either in or teetering into recession. India is doing things differently. There is a very different domestic situation, but nonetheless, some of those global pressures are the same. And I'm thinking about things like higher energy prices and higher food prices, and that could hurt domestic consumption.
Absolutely. In fact, the consumption growth rate has been a little slow, I would say. It's about 2.8%. And we really have to look into, the sectoral, in terms of income differences and what's happening to that and what's happening to consumption inequality in the country. And if there is pressure on prices, which at this point looks a little better to manage. Nevertheless, if there is a resurgent price in terms of either energy or food, that can hurt the economy quite a lot. That's for sure. But on the other hand, if the manufacturing takes off, then maybe income distribution will also be better. The income across different income groups can rise. In India, inequality had grown because it has been led mostly by the service sector and not so much by the manufacturing. And if now the manufacturing can really take off, then I think it's good news on that front also.
Yeah, one that we'll all keep an eye on right now. Really good to talk to you, Professor Chatterjee, the emerging market specialist in Uttar Pradesh, for us live on the programme. Thank you.